What if I told you there was a secret Nazi plan during World War II so dangerous that it genuinely terrified British Prime Minister Winston Churchill? Not because it involved massive armies or giant battleships, but because if it succeeded, Britain itself could have collapsed from the inside. At the height of World War II, Nazi Germany wasn't just fighting with tanks, bombs, and soldiers. Behind the front lines, Hitler's regime was constantly developing secret operations designed to break the Allies psychologically, economically, and politically. Some failed immediately. Others came dangerously close to changing history. But one operation in particular deeply worried Churchill and British intelligence. Because unlike dramatic battlefield invasions, submarines were invisible. Merchant ships would suddenly explode in the middle of the ocean without warning. Convoys carrying food and ammunition vanished beneath freezing Atlantic waters. Survivors described terrifying nights where torpedoes struck silently before crews even understood they were under attack. At one point, German submarines were sinking Allied ships faster than Britain could replace them. And for a while, it looked like Hitler's plan might actually work. The Atlantic became a graveyard. Thousands of sailors died in freezing water, while supply ships burned across the ocean. German U-boat commanders called it the happy time because of how successful the attacks became early in the war. Entire convoys disappeared. Some merchant crews barely lasted weeks before being sent back into another deadly crossing. Churchill reportedly obsessed over shipping loss numbers daily because he understood the terrifying reality. If Britain lost the Atlantic, Britain could lose the war. Food shortages were already severe. Fuel was limited. Every destroyed cargo ship pushed the country closer to disaster. And the Nazis weren't just attacking randomly. German submarines operated in coordinated wolf packs, where multiple U-boats hunted convoys together at night. Once one submarine spotted Allied ships, others closed in silently before launching waves of torpedo attacks from different directions. It created chaos. Crews described hearing explosions in darkness while nearby ships vanished into flames. Rescue missions became almost impossible because submarines often waited beneath the surface for additional targets. For Churchill, the fear wasn't only military defeat, it was the possibility of Britain becoming isolated, starving, and forced into surrender without Germany ever needing a full-scale invasion. That's what made the operation so dangerous. Hitler had already failed to destroy Britain through air attacks during the Battle of Britain. But cutting the country off from supplies? That was a completely different threat. The situation became so serious that Britain and the Allies poured enormous resources into anti-submarine warfare. New radar systems were developed. Codebreakers worked desperately to crack German naval communications. Escort destroyers began protecting convoys non-stop across the Atlantic. And slowly, the tide started turning. One of the biggest breakthroughs came when Allied intelligence cracked parts of Germany's Enigma code system. Suddenly, the Allies could sometimes track U-boat movements before attacks happened. Combined with improved aircraft patrols and better convoy defenses, German submarines started suffering massive losses. What was once Hitler's secret weapon slowly became a death trap for German crews themselves. By the later years of the war, the Atlantic campaign had shifted completely. U-boats were hunted relentlessly, and Germany could no longer choke Britain into submission. But the damage had already been enormous. More than 3,500 Allied merchant ships were sunk during the Battle of the Atlantic. Tens of thousands of sailors died. Entire crews disappeared beneath the ocean without graves, memorials, or recognition. And even though Churchill ultimately survived the crisis, he never forgot how close Britain came to catastrophe. Because sometimes the most terrifying plans in history aren't massive invasions or giant superweapons. Sometimes they're slow, invisible operations that quietly strangle a nation one ship at a time.